Okay, so for this next portion, we're going to do a bit of a panel and just ask a few questions just so we can have some dialogue about really education. So first question is, what does a 4-year degree mean to everyone here?
A 4-year degree would basically mean going to some kind of institution that offers predominantly like bachelor's degrees. So because it is a bit of a longer period to get sort of like expertise maybe in some field or area of study or thing that you're passionate about, that's where a 4-year college campus and a 4-year degree feels maybe most like all-encompassing and helpful. Mm-hmm. I would say for me personally, the 4-year degree, I'm gonna take it a little philosophical, was a little bit more of like super transformative for me. Mm-hmm. I think I needed probably the 4 years to just get used to being on a college campus, for me personally, being in a whole other country than where my whole family was living, and growing and figuring out like what my passions were and what I wanted to do. I would say in high school I was very by the book and checking off the things that I needed to do. And going to a 4-year college really opened up time and space to just explore. And there were so many things available that were not available when I was in high school, and I needed time to like figure all of that out. So that's what it would be for me.
I like that.
My personal experience is the same. You need about the 4 years to get acclimated and to kind of, you learn a lot about yourself as well, as far as like who you are as a student and how you show up. You just learn a lot about yourself, and you learn a lot. You learn all the opportunities that are afforded to you, and you kind of just find your way along the way.
Okay, yeah. Right, Rasheem.
So I actually went to a community college before I transferred to a 4-year institution. And community college, like you were saying, the expertise, the 4-year gives you that bigger stage, a bigger platform for you to go and do the bigger things, you know, salary, wage, and things like that. And for community college, usually trade and things that's shorter than what you have to do when you go to a 4-year. But I would say, yeah, it's very important to me. My granny forced me to go to a private school for middle school and high school, so I had to go do the 4-year and whatever comes after that. So, yeah, that
and
degree.
Specifically, what was that transition like, going from private school to
community college?
Yes.
It was different because a personal thing happened where I was supposed to go to Grand Valley, but then I ended up moving to Florida, and I had to go into college last minute. So I was in a transfer program to go to Florida State. So if I didn't go to community college and I had time to put the application in and go to FSU, that's where I went. But even outside of just a private institution and public school, it was the area. The area was very different. Tallahassee is a small town like Flint, but it's more things impact into that city because it's a college town. So it's FAMU, FSU, and there's like two community. It's like one community college and then another college. I think it's a trade school. So it was different living in a college town.
I bet. I freaking bet. Okay. And I guess it sounds like the biggest thing is like a 4-year degree gives people, I guess, the time and space to figure themselves out, to figure out what it is they want to do and things like that.
Yes.
And I completely agree, because that's been my experience. It's just, before the education, it's just time to figure out what it is that I want to do. And from what I've heard, it sounds like you all have had a few pivots within your educational journeys. And so the 4 years kind of gives you that space to really figure out what it is that you want to do. So on that, I know you've all already kind of mentioned this, but how has education changed your life? Or like, what's the significant impact from your education? We'll go the same order.
I think to your point of like transferring is also really big. So like the state of Michigan has the community college guarantee, where students who live in district of their local community college can go completely for free. And then jumping over to a 4-year, if that is like what you learn that you want to do, I think that's also really helpful just to know as like a resource, since I know the cost can be something that like really turns people away, or the anticipated cost or what they assume, they would have to take on. Definitely. I think I would just say like my overall growth as a person. So my biggest thing was like, I grew up not asking a lot of questions. I was incredibly shy. I used to be made fun of in high school when I would have to give presentations in front of the class, because I became known as like the girl, because every other word was this, like I just hated it. And now I feel like I was also forced into opportunities and highly encouraged, but like forced as far as like having to grow in that like skill set where I wouldn't had I just stayed, I think, at home. So it was a lot of growth, really transformational in a positive way. And then I know for me, when I was thinking about jobs long term, many of them had required like a 4-year bachelor's degree. So that's also where I think making that thinking a few years ahead.
Yes.
And like, right, like what opportunities am I looking for? How do I want to set up my future? The 4-year ended up being the way, like the pathway that I felt like fit in the most for me.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. And also hearing a little bit about your story from your interview, hearing the pressure that you were under, being like first gen student and the expectations, and I'm not gonna get into how you may have internalized all that, but I know it's a lot. And so just to hear that makes a lot of sense to me. And
Yeah.
it's powerful.
No, thank you. And I would even say, like, from an individual standpoint, like my last little point is just the confidence and pride in like who I am as a person. So I feel like also in high school, I kept I was striving to be a variety of things, right? Like maybe super high achieving, or maybe like diminishing like personality traits or characteristics of myself, where I feel like in college, like I always felt othered. So because like my dad's Irish and then my mom's from Ecuador, so when I was living in the States, like there weren't a lot of other Latina people around. And so I was always othered. We moved to Mexico when I was in high school, but it was only seen as me being American. So I was always
gonna say,
othered.
you're still othered.
And no, for sure. And so I feel like I came to college and that was the first time where I was like, I can like breathe a little bit maybe more. Like I feel like people just accepted and celebrated me for who I am and how I was. And I feel like it just built up my confidence in a way I never would have expected, that carries into like just my relationships now with my friends and family too, or at work and everything as well.
Yeah, I guess I never really think about the diversity, honestly, like and what that really means for an individual. That's cool.
Yeah, I was same thing. Like, just it changed my life in ways of like making me more diverse, as far as like my peers, and it helped me to overcome, as I said earlier, like a lot of internal conflict that I was having. Now I know that the opportunities to yourself is limitless if you just put forth the time and effort. Also, like research, honestly, like you learn so much. You learn how to like do effective research, and that in some way kind of helps you to become a little bit more credible in what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
So I always appreciate that. But yeah, just like overcoming internal conflict, being like more diverse, and being put in diverse settings, and just overcoming, honestly, that is how it has made me like changed my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Growth. I love the growth.
A lot of similar things.
I was thinking the same thing.
College is, it made an impact as far as giving me life skills and the ability to apply myself more. Because, high school, you have others applying themselves to you. You're catering to you so you can succeed. But when you go to college, you have to apply yourself for your own success. So I've learned a lot about myself. And then even college giving me the chance to go study abroad and learn more about others, because we're not the only people, on this planet. So, gave me to be more conscious and just learn more. So.
And I like to add to that too, like, you're right, college teaches you to be more resourceful, and kind of like seek out resources for yourself. So that's another thing as well. And that is like so helpful, I think, even like when we do go into the workforce and like we are like problem solvers, so yeah, that's another way that it has impacted me as well. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I find just the fact that people have used university to find themselves to be the most interesting, because like we said, we come out of high school or whatever our different spaces are, and then you get to come into this space with all these people from different backgrounds, different parts of the world, different goals, different values, different all these things like that, and just being around these individuals and getting to know them or getting to know yourself. And at the end of your 4 years, at least 4 years, you go on and you have a much better understanding of who you are as an individual, a much better understanding of the world, because I think a few of us have said that, like, just see the world differently from our experiences and stuff. Man, I expect questions like that to revolve around money or to revolve around careers primarily, but it's interesting that the first thing people bring up is, well, I mean, I grew as a person, like, things like that. So
Yeah.
that's big.
Yeah, side note, we have resources that even helps better us as students and as people. For example, EOI, Education Opportunity Initiatives, Room 280, the floor, you said at U of M Flint. Check it out, we're there.
Little plug, I like that.
Or even something so small, to be honest, as like my first time even going to therapy or thinking about mental health was in college. And that was like when I was on like going through a very dark time. And I think that also culturally for us growing up, like therapy wasn't something that was encouraged or spoken about or even struggling. And so I felt like, again, grateful for the opportunity to learn, because now it's something that I'm so comfortable being like an advocate for and supportive and encouraging others, whereas I wouldn't have beforehand.
Yeah, it sounds like it opened up the door for you.
Yeah, totally.
I think about just growing up, like not having, I don't think therapy was even a part of the conversation. And so going to a university where, that office is right there. We can set you up with this thing you've never had your entire life. Interesting.
It's amazing.
Okay, last question. Why do you think an individual should or should not pursue a degree? What do we feel?
I think that you should at least try in your lifetime. Because again, like I feel like during my 4 years, I learned so much about myself. And who knows, maybe you find that higher education isn't for you. It's still something that you kind of got out there and got to learn for yourself. Or maybe you find out that this is a space for you and you are growing and you want to continue it. But I think that even if it isn't for everyone, you should at least give it a try, especially if it's a topic or something that you're interested in. I think we all owe it to ourselves.
Definitely.
So growing up, my mom always used to, I think, push us to go and continue our education, because the phrase she always said was like, your education is the one thing no one can take away from you. Like that's lives in your brain. That's wisdom that you acquire over time. And I feel like I never fully appreciated that until I've gotten older and have been able to live a little more life and sort of
Find
see
yourself saying the same thing to other people.
100%, right? And so I think that's where, if an education, regardless of what pathway, right, community college, vocational school, or 4-year feels like the best way for you, go ahead and do that. And just know that those will be experiences that you get to carry and take forward with you. And that is not a thing that can get taken away. Whereas I think that there's a lot of times and circumstances where it feels like a lot of things are taken away in the blink of an eye.
That's true.
Whereas your wisdom is not. And if anything, that just keeps growing and keeps expanding for yourself. But again, I think that learning and growth also can happen outside of an educational landscape. So if you have an open mind to what learning is, I think regardless, you're going to be continuing your education like somehow, even if it's not just class-based.
I like that.
But I would definitely encourage it, just because you never know what's out there until you take the first step. Sometimes it's the scariest part, but it can be the most worthwhile.
It's usually never as bad as you made it out to be
Right.
before starting.
You don't got to go through it alone.
You just never know what might happen. I think school is just misunderstood, because people think the concept of college is like you're going to go into debt, or it's like money reasons, or they just really don't know what college all brings to the table. And the journey of going to get that degree is more than just education. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn a lot about others. You're going to network. You're going to connect. You're going to gain abilities that you thought you wouldn't even never able to get. So I think someone should just do it just for the journey that you're going to get on.
You're just learning about, like, I didn't know that was a career out there, just how many times does that happen?
Yeah, you get to look into the workforce.
Yes. But okay. Overall, I think it was a good conversation. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate everyone's perspectives on it. And it's just, again, I want to reiterate the fact that with these questions, the answers revolve around the individual and growth, and not so much the end result of what you expect with a college education is the degree or the job and money and stuff like that. It's the growth. It's probably the biggest, most important part of the journey. It's who you become while going through it. But does anyone else have any questions or anything else they wanted to add to it all?
Currently working at Education Opportunity Initiatives, once again, EOI, room 280.
I'm about to go visit up there now.
My major is international business, and I have a minor in psychology, junior. I went to private institution for middle school and high school.
Which private institution?
Powers Catholic, and then I went to St. John Vianney. And then when I went to community college, my major is business administration. My dad, I'm not a first-year student.
Okay.
My dad has his master's in marketing, and then my granny is an RN. And that's who I grew up in the household with, so college was like, you have to go to college. Like,
Okay,
you have
wasn't
to do
an
that.
option.
Wasn't an option. So I ended up going to college, but when I got to the 4-year, and you go to a 4-year institution, that's when the career choices and the degree choices just way more. So got to look into business, and I'm like, I'm halfway there, but I have a professor at home, which I'll be talking about my dad. He can literally teach me the stuff in school of management. So it's like, what can he not teach me?
Okay.
So I saw there was international business, and that's how that major came about. This is something he can't sit me down and be like, okay, Japan or something about Europe, or he can't tell me those things as far as the economics and business and demographic and things like that. So,
Okay.
and then I got into psychology, and I just want to learn more about myself and the people around me. So that's how those two intertwine. That's me
Awesome.
right now.
No, for sure. I would say for me too, the abbreviated version is that I moved around a lot in the States and was born in the States, but I actually went to high school in Mexico.
Okay.
And so the whole process back then was like figuring out how to go to college in the US, since we didn't have guidance counselors or AP classes or anything like that. My mom didn't go to college, but my dad did. And so my mom was the big, like, prominent, like, parental figure at home.
Okay.
And so she was like, same thing, college is not an option because she didn't get to go.
Okay.
And it only meant 4-year because that's for her was the best. And she was like, U of M is a really good school. That's where you're going to go. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I always say I kind of stumbled into higher ed and I stumbled into Michigan. Our circumstances were just so different in Mexico. And I think of what students do now to like apply to U of M, and it's just so much.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I got here and also learned the hard way through like failing the class because I didn't know that we could withdraw, or like not, learning about
Yeah.
office hours until later on. So thankfully that all worked out and I graduated. I worked a few jobs in between, also going to grad school at Michigan State for higher education,
Okay.
and Chicano and Latino studies over there as well. And so now my current job is with a program called Intend to Attend, where we work on promoting college going statewide, but that's like any college. So if it's community college, trade school, or four-year college, just supporting students to continue their education.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Thanks. How about you though?
So I did my undergrad at University of Michigan Flint. My major was in communications with a minor in biology, and now I am going into my master's program
Yes.
at the School of Information. I start this fall, but my kind of journey to education, I just didn't think like education was for me. I didn't see myself in that space, but I had a cousin that was always like in the background and kind of encouraging me and driving me to schools and kind of helping me to see and envision myself there. And that's how I ended up in school.
That's awesome.
Good luck in your master's.
I know.
Yes.
Thank
That's
you.
big.
Thank you.
Did you ever visit the UI?
Yes, I did. I did.
What was the number?
Go. What was it, 2080?
Yeah, 280.
280. Now I know the room.